Hello and welcome to the Explore the Circular Economy show by the MacArthur Foundation. My name is Seb and I'll be your host for this show. It's the show where we talk about and discuss and investigate and debate the transition away from a linear take, make, waste economy to one that designs out waste and pollution, keeps products and materials in use and regenerates natural systems. And once again, I'm joined by my Spanish co-host.
Thank you, Seb. I'm Laura, and I'm also part of the learning team here at the MacArthur Foundation. Today, we're going to be exploring why and how the circular economy is key in building back better from the pandemic that we are suffering today. And we're also going to explore how we can create a more resilient future for both our planet and our economies.
As we rise to the challenges caused by the coronavirus pandemic, the question is no longer should we build back better, but how? That's the opening line of a joint statement published in the Financial Times and on the MacArthur Foundation's website earlier this month, making the case that the circular economy is now more relevant than ever, and signed by over 50 global leaders, including CEOs, policymakers, NGOs, academics, and philanthropists. We're going to be joined in today's show by two representatives from signatories of that joint statement, Cecilia, the Environmental Sustainability Manager at H&M Group, and Veronique, the Global Head of Sustainable Packaging at Nestlé. We're also going to be joined by the Foundation's Rob Opsimer, who's the executive lead of our systemic initiatives. And I'll start with you, Rob. My first question for you, Rob, is what was the rationale behind the statement and sort of why now and what makes circular economy so relevant at the moment?
Yeah, thanks for that, Seb. I would say most simply the answer to that question is that the circular economy offers a solution in a time where businesses, governments, and people all around the world are facing unprecedented challenges. We're of course facing the immediate impacts of the healthcare impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, but we also have a very urgent need to restart the economy, to get the economy going again, to create new jobs for the jobs that have been lost, and make sure that we can keep businesses afloat. So we have this huge economic challenge that again, governments, businesses, people all around the world are facing. And then added to that is, of course, the many long-term challenges that we have, whether it's climate, biodiversity, or any other major long-term challenges that perhaps is getting a little bit less attention now, but of course they haven't gone away. And if anything, the coronavirus pandemic has shown that some of these big, hairy challenges that can seem, still a distant prospect, that it can suddenly become very real. And the coronavirus pandemic is an example of that, because we had been warned for it for many years that something like that could come. And then it actually came and became real really fast. And so if we look at the current landscape, there's an unprecedented set of challenges, a really urgent need to get the economy going, many long-term challenges that are as daunting as ever. And the circular economy is really a solution. It's not the solution to all the challenges we face, of course, but it's really an important solution in the sense that it can combine generating economic activity, creating new business opportunities, new innovation opportunities, creating new jobs on the one hand, and then on the other hand, it's absolutely a crucial part of the answer to big problems such as longer term challenges such as climate, pollution, biodiversity, and so on. And finally, it helps increase the resilience of our economies and societies, because no matter what we do in terms of trying to prevent future crises, undoubtedly, sooner or later, we'll have new shocks to our economies, to our societies. And by being more distributed, diverse, inclusive, and more locally oriented where it makes sense, the circular economy also enhances the resilience. So for those three reasons, the immediate economic opportunity and job creation opportunity, helping to address these long-term challenges, and then actually increasing the resilience in term, for when the next shock hits, we believe that the circular economy is more relevant than ever.
And of course, there was a lot of momentum behind a circular economy, even before the world changed in March, whenever it changed. And so I guess the statement is also about just reasserting the value and importance of that kind of solutions framework to the challenges you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see actually when we look around us in the economy today, there's many trends, whether it's digitization or indeed the circular economy, that were very much happening before coronavirus hit, but they have actually been massively accelerated, and we see circular economy as following that same pattern. And actually, what's I guess important to note, and what was really encouraging for us, that talking about that existing momentum when the coronavirus pandemic hit, and we started to think about internally within the MacArthur Foundation about what could we say about this, what role, if any, does the circular economy play in rebuilding our economies afterwards. At the same time, we had very, very encouraging signals from our network. And actually, we had a call from many of the companies in our network that said, look, we've made so much progress on the journey towards the circular economy over the past couple of years. We're certainly far from there yet, but we have really made very important steps. And this moment is certainly not the moment to step back. Actually, it's a moment to step up and accelerate our efforts. And for us, that combination of an internal conviction that this was a really important and relevant solutions framework for leaders in governments and businesses looking for solutions, and the fact that we had so strong pull from our network, made us convinced us that this was the right thing to do.
So you just mentioned the network, and you just mentioned businesses, policymakers, NGOs, which are all part of the signatories that we've seen in the statement. And we know that collaboration is key to building back better from this pandemic, but from any kind of shock that we can suffer. So Rob, how do we build the right platforms for this collaboration to take place?
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. It's been one of our key insights from the past 10 years of working on the circular economy, and then working on my area of the foundation, the systemic initiatives, where we zoom into one sector like or material flow like fashion or plastic packaging. The only way to really make progress is if all relevant stakeholders move at the same time. Because even if you're the biggest company within that industry, by yourself, you cannot move the needle alone. Even if you're the biggest government out there, you cannot move the needle alone. It's absolutely vital that we bring together companies from across the value chain. So in the case of plastics or fashion, both the raw material producers, then the brands, consumer good brands and retailers that sell some of these items to the public. We have two representatives with us here today. And then also the cities and the companies that collect these things after they are used the first time and then resell them, repair them, remanufacture them. All of those are crucial to bring together, along with governments and along with other academics and experts, to make real progress. And this has been absolutely central to our approach, working on these topics over the last few years, bringing together those stakeholders from across the system. And we're really delighted to see that now with the joint statement that come out. We had everything from the city mayor or deputy mayor of Sao Paulo in Brazil to large consumer goods companies, raw material producers, and so on and so on.
So in the statement, we mentioned kind of like the ambitions that we have for our 4 systemic initiatives: food, plastics, finance, and fashion. So I think it's time to bring in our external speakers as well, that have probably a lot to share about their different industries. And for example, the statement says that about fashion, that we need to ensure that clothes are used more, that they are made to be made again, and that are made from safe and renewable materials. So my question to you, Cecilia, is how is the H&M Group already doing some of these things?
Yeah, we have been on our circular journey for a while now. We started, of course, working with materials, launching a garment collecting initiative, for take-back of used clothing for reuse and recycling, and moving into a more formalized circular strategy where we take a holistic approach and where we set the ambition to become fully circular. And here we also work, of course, as a strategic partner to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we're part of the systemic initiatives of Make Fashion Circular and the New Plastic Economy agenda. And in our circular approach, taking this holistic perspective, we work to implement circularity all throughout our value chain, which means that we need to design the products in the right way, ensuring the right quality, durability, ensuring cyclability, of course, that the clothes are being used and reused and recycled in the end. It's about choosing the right raw materials, and here we also have a goal that we will only source recycled or other sustainably sourced materials by 2030. We have an agenda for how our garments should be produced, and here it's a lot about safe input and output. It's about the chemical use, toxic-free fashion. It's about the energy we use that should be renewable, of course. It's very much aligned with our climate positive goal to be climate positive 2040, and of course to use the water responsibly. And we're also covering the user phase, our customer actually, that they care for the products in the right way, that they love them, use them, and repair them where broken. We have a Take Care initiative with H&M brand where we offer guidance and inspiration on how to better take care and repair your garments yourself. We also offer repair services, both in our stores and with partners, and we also offer products. And finally, of course, it's about allowing others to use. And here we're piloting different circular business models such as rental. We have a collaboration with COS and Y Closet, for example, in China, and subscription rental. We also have rental of our conscious exclusive garments in a store in Stockholm. And re-commerce, of course, super important. Reuse of clothing in a second hand together with our partner Sellpy. And finally, it's about recycling. And here we have a lot of work being done and investments being made in new innovative companies focusing on textile to textile recycling, such as Renewcell or Worn Again or Infinited Fibers. So we do quite a lot, but we still have a journey left to do, of course. And I think therefore this message and this statement goes very much in line with what we at the H&M Group already are working on. And I see that this is a great opportunity to join forces, both with other companies and other partners to EMF, but also with governments, academia, and a wider network where we share the common message.
And I wanted to dig into that a little bit further with Cecilia, because I mean, what you've mentioned there was, just the scale of an organisation like H&M. Obviously, you've mentioned, materials, design, business models, loads of different collaborations. Obviously, your business has been disrupted recently, like many others. What goes into a decision to make a clear statement, as you have, around the circular economy is still very important and we're still fully committed to it? That's one of the things that won't get dropped, as I'm sure there's lots of different business and organisational decisions that are going to have to be made over the coming months and maybe years. What was sort of behind that reassertment of that being a key strategic priority?
Yeah, but it goes very much in line with our strategic direction and priority of becoming fully circular and climate positive. And I think this crisis has really showed the vulnerability with the linear system. I think now it's more important than ever that we stick to this agenda, even though we face tough times here and now, both as businesses, but of course people in general and communities, and we have disrupted supply chain. I think no one could have expected this. But as Rob said, I think we need to build back for the better, and we really need to accelerate the transition to a circular economy, which will make us more resilient, both in the fashion industry, but of course in the economy in general.
So I'm hearing now, I guess, is this idea that why would we, in many ways, some of the challenges that are being faced now are the current system, the linear economy being exposed. why would we sort of prioritize rebuilding that when we've already got a direction, as Rob's kind of mentioned, some of the momentum behind circular economy or within circular economy approaching into the pandemic. So thank you for that, Cecilia. I want to bring Veronique in also from Nestle, and I guess similar to H&M, Nestle is a very large company, one of the largest food and beverages companies in the world, and obviously I know you're also heavily engaged in the packaging topic, and that's a very large operation as well. How, and I realize I'm asking you a very big question, and I'll ask you to be as succinct as is possible in responding to it, but how has H&M approached the topic of circular economy? Nestle. Thank you, Laura. That's why we team up.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. Well, listen, Nestle by design is an agri-based company. For 150 years, we've been working with agriculture and asking ourselves all the questions around sustainability into the upstream supply chain. A couple of years back, when there has been this sort of a wake-up call, a global wake-up call in front of our collective waste management void to take action, we were very prompt to realize we have a role to play. So for us, it's just a part of the way we see our contribution in an economy that is healthy, and that we grow collectively within the community we operate, because we are very community embedded, and we work with the local, hire the local, and sell our food and beverage product to the local. So for us, it's just a natural step forward, not only to care for upstream, but also downstream. And so this pandemic has taught us how much we are interconnected and how the world can be stranded, which is quite a shock still for a lot of people. We have not even realized what has happened, and we are realizing the hard way. To accelerate this journey of equilibrium amongst this ecosystem and the environment in which we operate. And for us, it's just this acceleration is just also part of our recent pledge when it comes to climate change. It's the time to start is now and not tomorrow. And when you are strategically committed, you don't change your tack because of an unfortunate happening, which is the pandemic. Actually, it teaches us that acceleration is the way forward. So we are taking very seriously this notion of waste, coming from waste to go into value and resource creation is very important. The notion of making sure that everything has a sort of multiple usage is very important. But the challenge we are up against as a food company is the notion of safety. Because when you talk about food and beverage, you put these ingredients in your body. And we are very mindful that if we talk about circular economy within the FMCG and packaging, that we still need to protect our product. So not only we are committed on this circularity in many fashion, there is, as you said earlier, Rob, other also possibilities. So we have to be multi-system. I would say we have to evaluate a multi-system change. It's not only a one way, but definitely we need to be very focused on food safety. So that's why we've been created the Nestle Institute of Packaging Science, to accelerate the ability to protect our food item and beverage item, whilst through technology, through innovation, contributing to a waste-free future. I think this is one of the biggest step change we took last year, and more I would say to come. But we've done also our fair share, and we continue and we will lead in that dynamic when it comes to the circularity of plastic. We've been pledging to create a market for food-grade recycled plastic, because in some instances you will still need certain material to protect. And at the same time, we are looking at alternative delivery system, bulk dispensing, a reusable container, to your door delivery, and alternative also material like paperization, which is much easier to manage post-consumption. So there's a whole type of, I would say, pilot in motion as we speak, to appreciate the scalability, the doability, and I guess our joining the EMF is part of that multi-solution approach.
So, Veronique, you've mentioned many different things. You've mentioned like agriculture, the waste issue. You've also mentioned packaging, and I was reading that Nestlé this year is investing. I think it is around 1.7 billion euros. Which is a lot of money into all these things that you just mentioned. I wanted to ask you, do you then think the packaging is kind of like the main problem at the moment, and that's why you are looking into other ways of maybe like getting back the packaging or getting also other types of packaging that maybe are not made of plastic?
So the packaging is not the problem in itself. What is the problem is the end of life and the lack of waste management system. So as we build a new economy together, we need to really have a system put in place for waste management, as much as we need to reduce the waste creation, only build packaging when it's really needed, and of course use the best material fit for purpose for us is food safety, but just what's needed. So we long gone the days where we pack for the sake of packing. So reducing, rethinking, going into recycling, it's part of the system change. It's very important to talk about also education, because the situation in which we are challenge each and every one of us to relearn how to consume, because it's the same hand that grab a product, that fulfill a need, that dispose the packaging, and when it comes to food, the packaging that has protected the need before fulfillment. So as consumers as well, we have to rethink, do I want to create waste when I consume? And if I do consume, how do I manage the waste I create? So it's a whole ecosystem that needs to be somehow nudged with acceleration, as we said earlier. But it's important to look at, as Rob said, we need to have a collective action. And everyone has to basically pass the ball and grab the ball so we can win as a society. So but protecting will remain. And then the level of protection, it's something also we are challenging within our company. Do we need to have all our product with a long shelf life? When you look at a challenging supply chain, can we reduce the supply chain so we can reduce the shelf life, and therefore we don't need to protect as strong? I mean, we protect food safety, of course, but we don't need to overprotect. So there's a lot of, I would say, work group in motion to address that. But there is a rippling effect, and we need to be mindful of that. And as we always say, the devil is in the detail.
Thank you, Veronique. And I would like to go back to Rob at the moment, because, I mean, Seb has mentioned this, and also it's been part of the conversation that the statement kind of, like, it doesn't outline specific actions, but more underlines the importance of the circular economy as the solution. And some may say that actually it lacks clarity over what actions are being taken and will be taken in the future. So, Rob, what reactions have you observed after the statement, and how do we move from words to action?
Yeah, thanks for that, Laura. And I think the reactions to the statement have been very, very positive. We've been very happy with some of the pickup of the statement, seeing it also picked up by individuals like the European Commissioner for the Environment and others, seeing it actually reached the audience we wanted to reach. Of course, as can be expected with a high-level statement like this, there are indeed always people who ask, what's the meat here? What is actually being done? Where is the action? I would say to that, two things. One is that we believe that a state like this in itself actually it does bring significant value, because it brings that high-level message and narrative of we actually have a solution here. It doesn't solve everything. It's actually a significant part of the solution to many of the issues we face today. And getting that high-level message on the table of the people, the leaders in government and business, is extremely important in itself, I believe. The other thing to add then is that this is, of course, a part of a wide range of things we do at the foundation. And actually, the vast majority of the companies that were part of the statement, including the companies that Veronique and Cecilia are representing here today, we are working with those companies on very targeted actions where there is transparency and progress. So just to give 2 examples, so on plastics, we have something called the New Plastics Economy Global Commitment, where we have now united in total more than 850 organizations, many of them businesses, who have endorsed the common vision, but not just endorsed the vision, but actually are actively working towards a set of specific and measurable 2025 targets, and they are reporting on progress every year. Last year in October, we gave the first progress report. This year in October, we'll have the second progress report, and actually you'll be able to see, for example, the 2 companies who are represented here today, what progress they've already made and what actions they're laying out to get where they said they were going to get by 2025. So that's one example. And then in the fashion space, we have a project called the Jeans Redesign, which even has a shorter time frame and which is aiming to get jeans on the better jeans in line with circular economy principles in the market by 2021. So that's in the next 12 months, you'll see actually redesigned jeans appearing on the market from some of the companies we're working with. And I think for us, that combination of actually bringing a story and bringing a narrative that can help change how people look at the world, and combining that with real credible action and transparency mechanisms. Another one to mention there is our Circulytics tool, which we launched at the beginning of this year, and which helps companies, not just for one material, but in general, measure their circularity. We launched it earlier this year in January. We've had more than 500 companies picking it up and starting to use it since then. And again, that combination of stories, narrative, concrete action, innovation, moving stuff forward, and then having transparency and measurement, all of those are really important. And it's a combination, we believe, that can move the needle.
Thanks for that, Rob. I had a quick clarifying question that's just cropped up in our comments. For people not familiar with the New Plastics Economy Global Commitment, what kinds of targets, I mean, I'm based on some of the conversations we've already had in this, I'm sure there's lots and lots of different targets, but just to give people a sense, what are the sorts of things that companies that are signing up to?
So companies are signing up to various commitments depending on the type of company they are, but for consumer goods companies, for example, they're signing up to take action to eliminate unnecessary or problematic plastic packaging, taking action to move towards reuse models, designing 100% of the plastic packaging they use so it is reusable, recyclable, or compostable in practice and at scale. And they will increase the share of recycled content they use in their packaging. And all of those concepts, some of these are quite, it could be potentially undefined concepts. So as what is recyclable really? We have a big book of definitions that sit behind that and really make it crystal clear what we mean with each of these and what are the tests that you need to pass. And then we have companies going up and beyond that, and that's what we like to see. Nestle is one example of a company that set a target to reduce the virgin plastics use significantly by 2025, make a multi-billion-dollar investment. Those are the things we, of course, like to see that companies go up over and beyond the minimum criteria, in which we're constantly in dialogue with the signatory group about how to do that better. And perhaps last thing to add to that, Seb, if I may, just coming back to the statement and what action are we taking. So I talked a little bit about some of the actions we're already driving with some of these companies. And then one thing to add to that is that, of course, as the companies in the statement and the governments, let's not forget there's quite a few governments there as well. And they have all indicated in the statement that they're looking to raise the ambition level on their current commitments and to look for ways to accelerate the delivery of existing targets. So we'll be going in conversation with all the signatories of the statement over the coming months to see where are ways that we can actually bring that into practice.
Thanks, Rob. And I would definitely recommend anyone watching the stream to just take a quick look on our website. You'll see the full list of signatories to get. There's obviously too many for us to read out on this show, Laura. So thanks, Rob. Cecilia, there's a few questions coming on our various channels that we're streaming this out on. I'm going to try and sum them up a little bit. I guess that, for many people, they see fast fashion as kind of part of the problem or part of the challenge. I guess in response to that, where do you see circular economy in your work in an industry in 5 years' time? Is it disrupting the very way in which you work, and do you see yourselves as part of the problem?
I think everyone who's followed the linear system is part of the problem, and the fashion industry definitely has been a very linear industry in the past. So I think what we need to do is kind of create this system shift, and we're part of that, of course, but we want to take a lead in this change as well, and still being able to offer available and affordable, sustainable fashion. But we have to rethink how that is made and how the products are used. And I think what the circular economy shows is that we have a lot of opportunities testing new circular business models, for example. And I also believe that circular economy will be a very important tool to actually combat the climate crisis, for example, as well, or biodiversity loss for that sake. Using resources responsibly in a circular way will release a lot of the pressure that we have on the planet today. And I think all industries are part of that problem, and ours included. But we want to shift this, and we need to work with others to do that. We need to collaborate and join forces, both within our industry, but also with other industries.
And Veronique, I'm aware that we are running out of time, but we have this question from the audience that I would like to ask, and it is, what has been the biggest challenge for a huge company like yours in the transition towards a circular economy?
Veronique, you'll just have to unmute yourself. Sorry. We've all been on Zoom for weeks, but it's so hard to remember that particular piece.
For us, we are very pragmatic. We have committed to have all our packaging 100% reusable or recyclable by 2025. So across the 170 plus country we operate with hundreds of thousands of SKUs across 450 factories, we have an order of march. We have identified what we need to change. We have a very clear vision about what could it be. We are currently making the decision on how we're going to build that roadmap. We will have a very clear milestone across the journey. One could think 2025 is far away. For us, it's tomorrow. And also build engagement with the consumer as we propose new ways of servicing our products safely, that they do adopt this new mode of consumption and help us to transit. Today, 87% of our packaging material are either recyclable or reusable. So one could argue it's only a little part of balance, but actually it's a big balance for us. But we are very committed. And actually, why we have pledged to reduce by 1/3 our virgin plastic usage is also to force us to shift internally, because the change that we are building as a leader is linked also to a mindset change. And we all wish that the renewed commitment that we have made through the recent pledge, and as an outcome of the pandemic, because we realize everything is interconnected, should really force us to accelerate and to realize that let's not wait for the crisis to be at our door, which is somehow still something we are up against, to really take action. So for us, it's a roadmap, it's action. It's walking the talk, and along the way we will unveil our progress and report to the public, because we own that to our consumer, we own that to society.
Thank you very much, Veronique. Thank you very much, Rob and Cecilia. These shows always feel quite fast-paced, and perhaps even more so this week with the amount we're trying to get through. I'll certainly take away this sense that the circular economy is very much focused on collaboration. It's an industry-led transformation. And as the pandemic exposes some of the weaknesses in the current system, why would we step back and look to repair those weaknesses versus stepping up and accelerating forward with a transition where we already had significant momentum behind it leading in? So thank you very much to everyone who's watched that show, and whichever channel you're watching on. Sorry we couldn't get to all your questions, but do continue the conversation on our channels, and we'll certainly see you next time. What is next time, Lara?
Well, next week on episode 7 of the Explore the Circular Economy show, we're going to be focusing a bit more on food. And as you said, Seb, we are exploring as part of this weekly show how the pandemic has kind of made more visible some of the vulnerabilities of our economy, and in this particular case of the current food system and the supply chains. But however, we are also going to be speaking about some of the more positive trends that we've observed in different geographies like China and the EU, with consumers paying more attention about where and how the food they consume is produced, and also with retailers all around the world sharing that sharing an increase in their organic food sales. So we will be exploring these kind of questions in next week with our guests. Just as a reminder that you can catch up on any episode that you've missed on our website at the MacArthurFoundation.org, and that you can subscribe to our channels if you haven't already to be notified when we go live. Thanks to our speakers again, thanks to you watching it at home, and hope to see you next week.